What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to talk to you about today as winter storm warnings are now in effect for much of the Midwest, for Kansas, Missouri, and parts of Illinois. And I just got this notification on my watch. Governor Mike Parson of Missouri has signed an executive order in preparation for the forecast of winter weather, so preparations are already underway, going on right now through much of the Midwest, through much of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. They're going to be getting lots of snowfall from this and potentially a lot of ice from this in southern parts of those states as well. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to that as well. Today's video is going to be less about meteorology, more about impacts, because we're getting so much new information that in order for me to cover it all, we need to kind of cut some of the meteorology out and replace it with more impact. So this is going to be an impact-based video, so I'm sure a lot of you guys would be a lot more happy with that. But here's the situation that we have right now. Winter storm warnings issued for Nebraska, most of Kansas, most of Missouri, and into southwestern Illinois. More winter storm warnings are going to be issued in the next few hours across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. Almost the entire state of Kentucky is under a winter storm watch, by the way. And we have winter storm watches going all the way to near the Appalachian Mountains in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Those winter weather advisories over there, that's for the current system that's over there causing a little bit of weather. Those are going to get replaced by winter storm watches in the next few hours, so we're going to have to pay attention to that as well. But here's the situation that we have. Winter storm warnings are issued. We'll go ahead and start in Kansas City. Right here, we're going to go ahead and start right here just to kind of give you a general idea of what we are looking at. Winter storm warning in effect from 6 p.m. Saturday till 3 a.m. Monday. Heavy to mixed precip expected. 6 to 13 inches of snow and ice accumulations up to 0.2 of an inch. One thing I do want to make very clear is a lot of these scenarios are very vague. Like, they're not particularly that compact. We're not seeing like 8 to 12, like 12 to 18. We're seeing like a lot of these vague 6 to 13 inches. And the reason for that is we don't know where the rain ice line is going to form. And that's something you're going to want to pay attention to as well. And taking a look at some of the graphics that we have right here for that forecasting office. Here's what they are expecting for the National Weather Service right here. Up to a foot of snow for much of Kansas and Missouri, even as high, even all the way up into Kansas City as well. So we're going to have to pay attention to that as well as models calling for even more snow than what the official NWS forecast is going for right now. In my opinion, they are a little bit conservative because of the uncertainty, but I do think that overall, we're going to see an increase of snowfall from the National Weather Service as more data from the short-range runs continues to trickle in. Next area I'm taking a look at is St. Louis. We're going to go ahead and pull up that WFO right there to kind of show you that winter storm warning. We also have an ice storm warning in effect for parts of Missouri over here, mainly because of all the ice and stuff that's going to be happening right there. Here's the winter storm warning. It will be in effect from 10 p.m. Saturday until 6 p.m. Monday. Heavy mixed precipitation expected, 5 to 8 inches, and ice accumulations up to 1/4 of an inch are expected. I think that could be a little bit more depending on how this system evolves, so we're going to have to pay attention to that. Indianapolis, winter storm watch remains in effect for you guys right there. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this. Still in excess of 6 inches of snow right here. Heavy wintry precipitation, high probability of snow amounts of 6 inches or more with potential for significant amounts of sleet and freezing rain is expected for you guys in Indianapolis as well. And then going into Ohio, we have winter storm watches in effect for Cincinnati as well. Let's go ahead and pull this up very quickly. I know I'm going over a lot of the winter storm watches and all that. I know you want to get to the models and stuff. We will get there in just a second, but 5 to 9 inches of snow. But that's the situation that we have going on right now, and the system is going to evolve. We're going to continue seeing an evolving situation with this. However, I did want to show you those graphics just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at and how the NWS is reacting to this. So, by and large, they're taking this very seriously. I am glad they are taking this very seriously, and we're going to have to pay very close attention to that as well. And this isn't the only threat that we are looking at just with snow and ice and all that stuff. We also from the NWS haven't taken into account severe weather, as well as the Arctic cold that is going to be following right after this system passes. And I want to briefly talk now about the severe weather threat, as there is now a slight risk of severe weather for Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Right here, and it's generally what I've expected based on what I've been reading from the SPC as well. This is generally going to be a wind threat. I could definitely see some isolated tornadoes and maybe some hail with this, but personally, the main threat is going to be wind, and we will talk more about that later in the video. But that's the situation that we have right now. We have winter storm watches, winter storm warnings getting put into effect all over the place, and we're going to have to continue to watch this. Let's go ahead and show you the track of the system right here. We have the NAM pulled up right here. We're going to show you the NAM, we're going to show you the GFS, and we're going to show you the GEM RDPS and GEM GDPS as well, because the NAM and the GFS and all these other runs, yes, it's nice to see them all on their own, but I want to throw them into the aggregate and see what we're potentially looking at, because areas from Kansas City to Washington, D.C. are going to be getting major snowfall, and my job here is to figure out how bad the impacts are going to be and just how serious of a situation we are looking at. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to go ahead and start with the NAM. And here's the situation right now. It's moving into the Pacific Northwest as we speak. It then is going to move into the Rocky Mountains, and then it's going to start organizing and developing the low pressure system off the lee of the Rocky Mountains, and then it's going to be moving through much of the Midwest. It's going to develop in Oklahoma. And then you're going to start seeing that snow ice line really ramp up and really develop. And you're also noticing as well a very powerful backhand side of the snowstorm. You're seeing the northwest quadrant of this snowstorm bringing heavy snow from Missouri, Illinois, Kansas even, and those areas as you go into Monday. And based on what we're seeing as well, compared to what we were seeing yesterday and to what we're seeing now, this storm has slowed down significantly. For example, before in St. Louis, snowfall was going to stop, I'd say, early Monday morning. Now, according to the NAM, it's not going to stop until Monday afternoon. And that is very concerning for me right there, because that's only going to make the snowfall worse. That's going to make the ice accumulation worse. It's going to make all the amounts pile up. And I personally think that the estimates the NWS are bringing are a bit conservative because of this fact. Now, granted, a lot of it is uncertainty because of where that snow ice line is going to develop. And we're going to have to pay attention to that once again. But regardless of that, I do think these estimates are a little conservative, but we will have to pay attention to that. After this, the snowfall is going to be moving through Pennsylvania and the Mid-Atlantic region. Washington, D.C. is going to get a lot of snowfall from this, so we are going to have to pay very, very close attention to that as well. That is the NAM right there, and this is a medium-range model that's finally starting to get its act together, and we have a general idea of what it's going to end up doing. So the next one we're going to go ahead and show you is the GEM RDPS. We're going to show you the 12Z of that right here. Here's the 12Z GEM RDPS. GEM RDPS is organizing and developing. It starts off a lot as freezing rain in parts of Kansas and in Nebraska right there, but then it transitions to snow as time continues to go on. This system organizes and develops as it moves through the Midwest right here, and then it really ramps up. You're seeing that snow ice line really develop as it moves through, and then it enters the Mid-Atlantic, and it has shifted a little bit up to the north, putting more of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even New York City in the line of fire. So if you are in Washington, D.C., if you are in Baltimore, if you are in Philadelphia, if you're in Trenton, if you're in New York City, you need to be watching this very, very closely, because the models have shifted a bit more up to the north for you guys, and the models have shifted a little bit further to the south in the Midwest. It's kind of that oscillating wavelength that we see in meteorology. But that's generally what we are looking at with this right here. And then the back end of the system moves through DC and Baltimore and those areas, and we're going to have to pay attention to that. Here's the GEM GDPS system that we have for you right here. This is a bit more of a long-range run right here, but generally a similar situation to the GEM RDPS, although that ice snow line is going to be pushed further to the south, and it's going to end up putting less of New York and less of New Jersey in the line of fire. So that's a situation that we are paying attention to as well. Let's go ahead and show you the GFS run. as well. The GFS has been a bit more to the north than a lot of these runs, except for the NAM, I've noticed. And what it's doing is it wants to give St. Louis a massive sleet and ice storm and then give it about 4 inches of snow behind that. I personally do not see that scenario happening. I think that snow ice line is going to be moving a bit further to the south from St. Louis. But again, it depends on how the system evolves, and we're going to have to pay attention to it as well, because the further north that snow ice line goes, the worse effects it's going to have for a lot more of the populated areas, not just St. Louis, but Kansas City, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and even Washington, D.C. as well in the next few days, and we're going to have to pay attention to that. I talked to Matt a little bit about that today when I was on the phone with him, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm thinking about. And he's been watching it very closely. His flight's going to be leaving on Tuesday. I know his brother is going to be heading back to his school on Sunday. And considering this snowstorm, I don't think that's going to happen personally. I'm not going to put too much personal information out or anything like that. It's just friends talking to friends and all that stuff. But we do get around, and I talked to a lot of meteorologists about this. I've talked to RJ about this. He's in my class at school, the winter weather experts, I would say. I know he doesn't call himself that, but that's what I call him a little bit. And he's been thinking a similar situation. It's going to cause one heck of a problem for the I-70 corridor. But with that being said, the system moves into the mid-Atlantic. It's a bit further to the south, doesn't put much of Pennsylvania in the line of fire, but it does put Washington, D.C. in the line of fire for ice and more snow generally, and we're going to have to pay close attention to that as well. So that's what we have going on right now. Let's go ahead and show you snow accumulations for much of these, starting with the NAM, and then we will move on to and then move on to other areas that I'm watching. Here's the snow accumulation for the NAM for the Midwest. It is a little bit conservative in my opinion, mainly because of the strength of the system, because of where it's going to be placed, and how the system is going to evolve. I do want to check, however, the ice accumulation, the freezing rain accumulation. It's well overdoing the ice accumulation in my opinion. It wants 1.5 inches of ice for areas around Evansville, Indiana, which in my opinion, that is not even going to be close to happening unless the NAM is somehow correct. I personally think that it's overdoing the ice accumulation and underdoing the snow accumulation. And that rain sleet line and snow line that I'm noticing, I don't trust where it's placed. And I think the NAM is overdoing the inversion of the upper levels a little bit, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But yeah, it's giving... If we saw almost 2 inches of ice in Indiana and Kentucky, that would be absolutely crippling, and you would not be able to travel anywhere close to that. You wouldn't even be close to traveling. It would also down power lines. It would cause one heck of an issue for a lot of these areas right there. I think the NAM, like I said, is overdoing the ice by quite a lot. I personally think anything above 1/2 inch of ice is a little bit insane at this current point. Push it to 2/3 of an inch of ice if you want to really be a bit more liberal with that, but I do not see 2 inches of ice happening. If that were the case, it'd be one of the worst ice storms in American history, and I don't personally see that happening. Let's go ahead now and show you the Mid-Atlantic. Over here, we're going to start with snow accumulation and then move on to ice. Snow accumulation, the NAM is a bit further to the north. For example, it only has areas around like DC proper getting like 2 to 3 inches of snow. But if you push it a little bit further up to the north, say Montgomery County, you could see up to 9 inches of snow from that. So it's going to be really dependent on where the snow line is going to develop, because this ice snow line is going to be less prevalent in DC, and it's going to be more the rain snow line that's going to be a bit more prevalent. Although there are areas in Virginia that could see quite a bit of ice from this. Okay, yeah, 3/4 of an inch of ice in Virginia. That's really overdoing it in my opinion. But we'll have to see what happens going forward. Let's go ahead and now show you the GEM RDPS. As well, we'll show you total snow accumulation. GEM RDPS has a lot of areas in the Midwest, still in Kansas and Missouri over here, potentially getting up to over 2 feet of snow in the Kansas City suburbs right there. I personally think that's overdoing it a little bit, and I think something in the ballpark of maybe like 12 to 18, maybe even 20 inches at most is what I'm thinking for those areas right there. But overall, I do not see more than 2 feet of snow happening. The NWS doesn't even see that much happening in their highest probabilities. So, yeah, I'm thinking we're leaning maybe towards like 12 to 20 inches of snow in the Kansas City suburbs over here at the very most. NWS set 8 to 12. I like where they're going with this, and I like that they're being a little conservative because there's a lot of uncertainty with this. So we're going to have to pay attention to it. Regardless, though, it's still bringing 8+ inches of snow through Illinois, through Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, into West Virginia as well. And then if you go into the Mid-Atlantic, the GEM RDPS has Washington, D.C. and Baltimore in the line of fire. Not so much Philadelphia, but Pittsburgh definitely could see a few inches of snow from this as well, like 5 inches of snow from what I'm seeing as well. But regardless of that, you're seeing 10 inches of snow possible for Washington, D.C. and areas around there, 9 for Baltimore. Wilmington does not get as much snow as what we've seen in the previous runs, but we'll pay attention to that as well. Let's go ahead and next show you the GEM GDPS as well. GEM GDPS is pretty interesting, I would say at the very least. Still wants a lot of areas in Missouri to get over 20 inches of snow, and then it decreased to around 8 to 10 in St. Louis, which if you give the ice accumulation as well, if that snow ice line pushes a bit further to the north, I can definitely see a scenario where that is possible. And then as you get into D.C., it's calling for over a foot of snow in Washington, D.C. In Baltimore, 10 inches of snow, Philadelphia, 3, in Delaware. It really depends on where you're at. There is still a bit of uncertainty of what's going on in the Northeast. I will warn you about that. But by and large, we are going to be seeing Washington, D.C. in the line of fire and Baltimore in the line of fire. New York City, Philadelphia is a little bit more uncertain at this current point, but I would still pay very close attention to it. European has been pretty interesting. It's actually been the furthest to the south of all these runs, and it has been a bit more conservative in some areas in the Midwest, a bit more liberal in others, like, for example, 26 inches of snow in Kansas. That would be quite the situation right there. And I want to check the winter storm warnings over there to see if they're even considering that much over there. I want to take a look at the Salina area for winter storm warnings. Let's take a look. Yeah, 5 to 10 inches of snow according to those areas right there. I don't think 2 feet of snow, I don't think it's even going to be happening in Kansas, in my opinion, folks. So I think the Euro's overdoing it over there, but I am a little curious on why the Euro wants a foot of snow in parts of Kentucky from Louisville, Lexington, those areas right there. I'm going to have to do some more digging into that. And D.C., the snow, they want Virginia to get over a foot of snow from this. So this is why, the European is by far the furthest to the south compared to all these runs. And I know a lot of you in Virginia would love to see this, especially the snow lovers that don't see this very often. I would take this with a massive grain of salt, in my opinion, mainly because none of the other models are showing anywhere close to this. And unless the models cave and push further to the south and the Mid-Atlantic region, I don't see a scenario where this is going to happen. Lastly, let's go ahead and show you the GFS. Yeah, GFS is not even close to giving the entire state of Virginia 10+ inches of snow. Although I will say, I do think they are well overdoing the snowfall in northern Missouri and Illinois. Wanting 2 feet of snow near Springfield, Illinois, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen unless this system really ramps up from the Colorado as it develops off the lee of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. So that's my take on it right there. I do think it's a little bit liberal with its snow totals. Let's take a look at the freezing rain accumulation. Yeah, it's overdoing everything. It's overdoing the ice. It's overdoing the snow. Take the GFS with a massive grain of salt. If you're in St. Louis, I'm thinking anywhere from 8 to 14 inches of snow is possible, along with 1/4 of an inch of ice. It is a bit above what the NWS is going for, but based on the model trends, that's what I'm seeing right now, especially in areas north of the I-70 as well. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. And then the Mid-Atlantic right here. Generally, a foot of snow is expected in Indianapolis and Cincinnati as well. In Washington, D.C., you're looking at potentially 7 inches of snow, 10 in Baltimore. And it also puts Philadelphia in the line of fire, around 7 to 8 inches of snow. So if you're in Philadelphia, in New York, I would pay close attention to this, especially if this system pushes further to the north. But as of right now, If you're in DC and Baltimore, you need to prepare for this very extensively. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, from Ohio all the way to Kansas, you need to prepare for this very extensively. And we'll continue to update you here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel as more data and information continues to come in. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Shout out to Daniel as an official sponsor of the Pat's Path Predictor Patreon. If you want to join that and support the channel more directly, it's the first link in the description down below. Also, if you want to join the Storms United Discord server, we are talking about this very extensively. Get our official snowfall amounts from there if you want to talk us to talk about those. Be sure to join the Discord server. It is in the end screen right over there. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.